No Dam's Given podcast today, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're waiting on Mr. Eric Belisco, who is late as usual. So today I have my good friend, Mr. Sean O'Keefe, and his assistant, Miss Tina, and thank you for being here.
Hi, how are you? Well, I have to correct one thing first off. My assistant is not here. Tina is the founder of Polo in the Pines. She's actually my client. I'd love to have her as my assistant, but I think she'd kill me. Well,
my assistant told me wrong, so very good.
Those assistants,
Those
tell you.
assistants, very good. Yeah. Well, I've had a hell of a day, so we'll see how this goes. I probably drink too much beer, and we'll have a really good time. I met Sean about almost a year ago, and we came up and we did his show. We've also been sponsors of Polo in the Pines, and we've been sponsors of his altruism in Atlanta. And Sean, I thought it was very interesting how you actually got to Atlanta. So could you tell the people who follow us how that turned about? Because you were a chef, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and you were in Beverly Hills?
I was a bit of a celebrated chef.
You're
Yeah, I spent
17
17 years in Beverly Hills as a private chef.
Yeah.
And then managed vineyards in the Santa Ynez Valley, where I was the chef for that vineyard, and had a couple of really very special clients who, if I say their name in public, they can sue me. So I won't be doing that. But it's just been one of those great adventures, and I had an opportunity to relocate to Georgia, and it was a remarkable thing to just leave that massive city, which is, not welcoming and not really angelic at all, and to come to Georgia and to find the warmth of hospitality in the Atlanta neighborhoods that I was so lucky to be a part of. What I wanted to do was to do what I had done for the very few, for the very many, and started a company that just uniquely wanted to do events for nonprofits to build their notoriety, their opportunity to attract sponsors and to throw quality events that were worthy of those nonprofits and allow those nonprofits to grow as a result of that. And Tina is one of my oldest clients. One of the clients that I've had the longest. Tina's not an old client. She's a client that I've had the longest.
Right.
And Polo in the Pines is born out of actually an Albany spirit and energy to leave this world a little bit better than it's here when we first got into it. So Tina and her mother started doing fundraisers for various cancer organizations or hospitals around the country, and then settled in the pediatric brain cancer genre with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta as our beneficiary. And Polo in the Pines is a remarkable 2-day event now. It started off, can we really do this? And it became this thing that now has 500 people on one day, and then 25 restaurants, and 200, 500 or 700 or 1,000, or we don't know how many people will be there on Sunday for the Polo in the Pines Atlanta Polo Brunch Festival, but all done sort of for the greater good. And Preparatory Fields last year came on board as a sponsor, and everybody really loved the beer, and I guess that's what begat the friendship.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So two of your old clients, the Sevilles, or not the Sevilles, the Sullivan sisters. And so that's where we first heard about y'all.
So it was Colleen who introduced Tina to, what was the name of the gentleman that used to work here? You mentioned his name today, and he's no longer with the company. But he made an introduction, and then we got to this dialogue that was about how do you expand your brand share in a new market and an emerging market with an emerging brand. And the best way to do that is to create immediate brand loyalty. And Tina's clients and the guests that come to Polo in the Pines, when they see a bottle of vodka or a can of beer and they recognize that that label has given to the charity that they care about the most, when they go out into the market, they will search out those labels and those brands because they care about the same thing that we care about. And that started us at Pretoria Fields kind of playing together in a way that we were able to take, a lot of really exciting new energy and products like the Sholey or the Rye Charles, and get it into the hands of really thirsty, charity-minded people.
Oh, yes.
And people give more when they've had a couple of beer.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. The more you drink, the more charitable you become.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So I really liked your how you've taken products and then used those products you've taken, I don't know exactly how to say it, how you took our product and then you've displayed our product within what you're doing as far as your charitable work, and it works well for the corporation as well as it promotes your charity. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And you've done it with you've done it with several different products. You've done it with ours, which is great, but you also did it with the vodka, I think.
Tito's Handmade Vodka.
4
Roses Bourbon. Soon to be doing it with Veuve Clicquot, which is going to be a really awesome thing for Polo in the Pines. And then also, I'm sort of the de facto cause marketing guru for the Atlanta restaurant scene as well. So there's restaurants that are trying to establish brand loyalty, and those restaurants have marketing budgets, and we're in a position where we can help by buying the ingredients or having a really educated, dazzling wait staff or bar staff come to support our event. And these restaurants are given an opportunity to shine, right? We help them do it. We get a high quality, really showy meal prepared for us. And it's done in a very charitable, kind way, which makes the restaurant looks like hero, makes the vodka looks like a hero. It drives more money to the mission of the nonprofit. If I have to spend $35,000 on lunch for 500 people, that's $3,500 the charity doesn't get. But if I can get the restaurant and the vodka and the farm down the road to grow the salad,
hell yeah.
We're redirecting all of this revenue to the nonprofit. And in doing that, Polo in the Pines is closing in on the $1 million mark that we've raised over the series of years that we've been doing this event. Tina has parented this event on behalf of a multiple number of nonprofits and hospitals, always around cancer research. It's a very passionate part of Tina's mission. And people, they get it. It wasn't some grand master plan, but there is an element of I care, you care, I give what I can, you give what you can, and we can create an environment that allows these nonprofits to really fly. Wow. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And Pretoria Fields is sponsored now in Atlanta alone, Polo in the Pines, the Atlanta Polo Brunch Festival, which is our second event, the Georgia Ovarian Cancer Alliance Shaken Not Stirred Gala, and an organization that helps artists in the state of Georgia during times of sort of stress where they need lawyers. So Georgia Lawyers for the Arts has been around for 35 years.
Really?
And they were just like, where did this bear come from? Like, Albany. They're like, New York? I'm like, no.
Not quite.
No.
Well, that's awesome. So the great thing about this is, and this is what I tell our guys, we don't sell beer. We're not selling beer, which sounds crazy because obviously we manufacture beer. But what we're selling is a story. And we're selling the story of South Georgia. We're selling the story of organic agriculture. We're selling the story of sustainable farming. And we're selling the story of natural resource management. And so those things go incredibly well with what you're doing. We don't want to, we're not going to make a product unless we can highlight those aspects of what we're doing. And if we're trying to stay true, and we are staying true to our theme, meaning that we're staying true to those values.
Well, it's very evident in what I've seen so far, because I arrived this morning. Tina and I came down to do a little sort of a look around the. Hold on.
It's Mr. Eric
He
Blusko.
has arrived.
He actually brought his own Sholey. So, and we'd actually like to take this time to highlight Albany area hand therapy.
I can't be you, but
Good. How are you?
Hi there.
And
I'm Sean. Hi, Eric Blusko. Eric, nice to meet you.
This is my partner in crime. Is that the best way to describe it? Best way to describe it. Plus, this means I get to sit right next to Nikki.
Yeah, that's always a bonus.
And if they could move the camera over, that's probably generally what people want to see anyway. So great. So, did you have a hell of a day also?
Yeah, I got done late, and then I ran by my house, and then I had a buddy. My wife's entertaining a bunch of folks at our house, which I did not know about until I got to my house. And then a buddy of mine was at my house, and I was like, dude, let's get out of here. Let's go down to this podcast I got to do. And then we caught every red light on the way. We pretend we didn't see at least two of them.
Luckily.
And there are no trail of sirens or anything like that would alert anyone to some wrongdoing in your driving.
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And the good news about it is that it's actually a beer podcast.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So please have a beer.
Yeah. I'll calm down here in a second.
Yeah.
So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
And Albany area hand therapy. He's actually a hand therapist.
Yeah. There aren't too
So so if your little pinky hurt, actually mine it still hurts.
you know, you always minimize what I do for a living.
I don't. Actually, the only thing I minimize it is that my finger still hurts.
Quit using it.
Get another. The transplants are available.
So he ties his suture knots and stuff with his pinky to loop it around. I don't know. He does something weird.
I do it. Yeah.
Just
Actually,
got-
I've that last little loop moves the pinky around.
All right. Sorry.
So it sounds like he would need that then to continue the other part of his life.
He's okay.
Should we just amputate it?
So hand therapy, let me ask you a question. So does that fall under the occupational therapy
See?
role here?
See, he knows more than you know.
And
That's
are
probably
you,
true.
are you doing
He thought I was a physical therapist for forever.
therapeutic?
Yeah.
Therapeutic? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
All right.
Yeah. Now there are physical therapists, there are hand therapists.
That's right, there are.
Yep. And then there are occupational therapists. It's probably, I don't know, there's probably more occupational therapists, most definitely, I guess, that seek that area of expertise, I would guess. I don't know.
So do you have a private practice or do you work in conjunction with a medical group
No, it's
or a
private.
hospital?
I've
Private
been,
practice.
2005. So, yeah, till now. Yeah.
Are you expecting a change? You're like,
Till
2005 till now. Oh, what's
Till
happening
today.
tomorrow? Like, what's new?
And announcing for the first time.
Become a professional podcaster, I'm sure.
That's right.
I'm sure it pays really well.
Vascular
sorry.
surgeon's not tire, I hear, is available if he does have to have the amputation.
Touche.
I listen
love
very
it.
well. I have to. People say things all the time.
Oh, another favorite thing about Mr. Sean O'Keefe is that he's from St. John's, or your family's from St. John's, Newfoundland. Did you live there or grow up there?
I grew up there. I was just there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've spent here we go. I've spent 87 days there in the last 8 months helping my father transition from this stage of his life to the next.
Right.
And it was a really powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
And the 85 days that I was there, 84 of them, I wore long johns. It snowed there the day I left. I came home 7 days ago. I spent the day out in a dory trying to find icebergs. Like, it was beautiful.
Oh gosh, I follow you on
It's
Facebook. So
beautiful.
seeing the pictures that you post and they look like the pictures in the books that I have.
That's right.
Like it's one of the. I mean, it is. It is one of the places that I've wanted to go that I haven't made yet.
It's so beautiful. But you get off the plane and you walk back like 300 years. My father passed recently, as you know, and my partner flew up to be with me during that time period, and he had never met my family. He'd never been to Newfoundland, and he's a Georgian, right? So the idea of arriving somewhere in February, in the first week of March, you don't want to go to Atlantic Canada, and there's this marvelous storm of frozen rain and sleet and wind and everything, and my father passes, and we spend the day, and then I take him to my cousin's hotel, which is called Mallard Cottage and Mallard Inn. It's an old fishing town in the city of St. John's that's been totally renovated. And we went into our room, and Marty, my partner, looked at me, and he's like, "Your cousin built a hotel without a television? There's no phone. What am I supposed to do here? Like, there's a radio? Like, what?" And we went to bed, and he got up the next morning. He was like, "I would live here in a heartbeat." And I looked right at him, and I said, "With whom?" Like, not me. Yeah. I'm not going to live here. Like, I ran screaming from Newfoundland in '89, and I'm back there now, and I'm like, the reason I thought I had to leave was not the case.
Yeah.
And it's charming and lovely and resilient and
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I spent the day, one of the days that I was there this past time, walking on the beach of my childhood, skipping rocks along the ocean. New Melbourne, Trinity Bay, has now become a global surfing destination. So there are people surfing with icebergs.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
guarantee-
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
They're wearing
you know.
neoprene.
Yeah, they've got a suit on. They're
got a suit on.
with a heating unit in it. But it was really magical, and the icebergs were splendid. And in my father's passing, after many years on my adventures, he gave me back my my faith, my family, and my love for that island. And even though I'm not there, like a part of me really sings it. Like I really feel like I should be there. Don't worry. We'll do Polo in the Pines this year. I'm not going away anytime soon. But it's magical and something special and not that far away. But like I said, it's 3 hours from Toronto and 200 years ago.
Oh,
Right?
what a beautiful story. So do you have any idea why I love St. John's, Newfoundland? You might. It has to do with a
Arctic
black
char.
It has to do with a black dog.
Labrador.
Yeah. So there's Richard Walters wrote a book talking about the origin of the Labrador Retriever, and his historical theory is that the Labrador comes from Newfoundland, and he traces the history back through historical records for fishermen. And so interesting, he's probably a 1970s 60s, 70s era writer. He wrote for Sports Illustrated. He wrote several books that most people who waterfowl hunt have read because it's a very easy book to learn to train your retriever. I don't know what you're showing me.
Sorry.
It's a book.
I tried to be clever. It's not a book. I meant to show you at the gateway to the harbor.
Oh, that's awesome.
They have two bronze sculptures, one of the Newfoundland dog itself and the other of the Labrador Retriever. So these are...
So the idea is that they used the dogs when they caught fish in nets and with very poor hooks. And so then he went and he interviewed hundreds of fishermen, and you know, basically the reason they stopped using the dogs was because they got better hooks.
They're out of a job.
Yeah. So they were out of a job. So they went from catching fish and making sure the fish stayed in the boat to catching birds and making sure birds were brought back to people.
Well, you know what? They all moved south and now.
They did. They didn't like the north that
we
much.
got a lot of duck hunting done with those dogs.
It's really interesting when you look at the evolution of dogs and species of dogs, and the Labrador Retriever and its evolution to the Chesapeake Bay Retriever, to other now standard dogs. They all come from, there were never 10,000 dogs available. There were like 6, and then we just bred them to be what we needed them to be, right? Like my teacup Great Dane. I know it's an oxymoron, but I'm sure they're making some somewhere, right? They have to exist. But the Newfoundland and Labrador is very lucky in that they have both breeds of animal that are what they're calling sort of indigenous. They're not indigenous to the island, but they're from the island. And both the dogs have had an integral part of the seamanship of the island and its people over the years.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. And both the Newfoundland dog and the Labrador Retriever are about the same size as the Newfoundland pony. So you could put them all together and you can't tell them apart, right? But it's just part of that very special place in this world that not a lot of people get to, and summer is only 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's right around the 4th of July.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's like the second week in August, and you've missed it. Yeah. But it's like Long John's last week. I was in Long John's. Yeah. It was cold.
But it's still beautiful, and all the ship. Well, I guess they still fish. That's
very much so.
Still a major portion of the economy, right?
Yeah, and the economy is kind of upside down right now because everything that has to come to the island either has to come by shipping container, right? Because it's an island. Like it's an island. It's 18-hour boat ride from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia to Newfoundland, and then you've got to truck it to wherever it needs to be on the island. So I went to the supermarket, and I was a chef for a very long time, and I'm home, and my sister's like, "What's for dinner?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll go to the market." I go to the market. I'm going to simply make what I find. And there are always things a chef needs, right? You need carrot, onion, and celery, no matter what you start with, right? You need carrot, onion, and celery. It's the base of a sauce. It's soup. It's everything.
Right.
And I'm looking around and I see celery, and it's $7.99 a head. Like the bushel, it's 30 stalks or 20 stalks. It's 99 cents at Kroger, right? Grab it. Go. Even if you buy the most elaborate, boutique heirloomed celery farmed in the Himalayas and transported to Atlanta, it's still only $3.50 a head, right? So this $19 celery, you see it's getting more expensive already, I have to buy it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I can't. I go to the seafood counter, and the lobsters are $6. Like the full live 2-pound lobster is $6. So I'm like, I think I'm just going to eat lobster. Screw the peanut butter and celery thing I was going to work on for a couple of days as snacks in the afternoon. I'm just going to have lobster. It was cheaper.
Yeah.
And the diver scallops were just incredible. And obviously the codfish, which the island is famous for generations and generations, was beautiful. Mallard Cottage and Raymond's are both two exquisite restaurants in St. John's. And the wine lists are very different than what we experience in the United States, because they're mostly French European driven, Spanish, French, European, not even as much, practically no Californian, a little bit of South African and some South American, but mostly European wines. And to go into a restaurant where everything has been foraged or grown for that restaurant uniquely, like, our lamb comes from down the street, turn left at the church, and go. It's unbelievable, and it speaks to what you're doing at Pretoria Fields. Yet again, another little similarity, right? So it's not just the dog, right? And we all have a responsibility in this world, and it's to each other in our neighborhoods and the people that we care for and the charities that mean the most to us. But we have a responsibility to do it the right way. You know what I mean? And if you're lucky enough to be growing food that fuels the beer that starts the conversation that changes the world, you've really done it the right way. You know what I mean? Like the can gets recycled. Everything has a complete circle and a closure to it. And I saw that today on the farm, and it was really encouraging to me. Piles of bricks that came from buildings that were taken down around here.
That's right.
That are not just discarded, that have a greater good or a larger purpose.
Right.
And those kind of things.
Or they're waiting on their purpose.
I'm still waiting on my purpose. I just turned 49. I'm like, when's that happening? I'm just trying.
Any day now.
Any day now. So exactly. How are things, and how is it that you have met? Like, is it due to some crazy vascular pinky injury that had you running down the street to the local hand occupational therapist, or?
We actually met at church.
Yep.
Yeah. Funny that we're drinking. Funny that we're drinking buddies.
We met at church.
We're
right.
Well,
we're obviously
we were
Catholic.
Episcopalian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and that's pretty much how.
Church under the bus.
Yeah, we did. But actually, they're some of our favorite people, because they're some of our best clients here at the brewery too. No doubt about it.
That's true. Okay. I was wondering where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I thought you meant clients at work.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Episcopals rarely have occupational therapy issues.
Yeah, I have a lot of St. Paul's church members that come to me, and they're a jovial sort.
Yeah. Heavy hymnal. Is it the same injury that they all have?
Heavy hymnal injury. Yes.
Heavy hymnal injury.
Actually, I've done
Actually, we have a very good choir, and so everybody plays a musical instrument. So it's all they all had chronic use hand issues.
I wonder where you're going with things sometimes.
It's been a long day. Like anyway, I said, it was a hell of a day, people.
We met at church.
Hell of a day.
And we both enjoy the outdoors. Hunted together, fished together.
Fish together?
Drink together. And I don't know. Apparently we brew some beer together too.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And he's actually a partner in my brewery.
In Pretoria as well.
In Pretoria Fields.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you encouraged me to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I pushed you and prodded you
a little bit. You said, that's a good idea.
You had the idea long before I came in. But, it pushes people a little bit.
And Nicole Miller. Nicole? Yeah. How long have you been working with us?
Probably 3 going 4 years.
4 years. And Nicole is an aesthetics nurse, and she works at the Georgia Center Med Spa. And she has many talents, not all of them to do with facial. It's not reconstruction. What do I call that? Facial aesthetics? Or
Rejuvenation.
Rejuvenate. Beautiful.
I pay attention when you talk.
Facial rejuvenation. She also does. She's a South Georgia girl, and I think she just likes what we do.
I do.
Yeah, I think she. Her dad's an artist.
He is.
Dad's an artist, a musician, and she's been a very good assistant. She helps with social media. She does my venous ablations, some of the vascular procedures that we do. So she's actually a very good nurse, and she likes good cold South Georgia beer.
I do.
And that might have been the other reason she's with us. So, Polo in the Ponds, that's an awesome project.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us about this project.
Yeah.
Because
Well, we talked about it a little bit. So, but you were telling me that it started with your mom, right?
It did. It's a grassroots idea that I came up with in 2012 to honor my mother, Sharon Knight. She had been fighting leiomyosarcoma cancer since 1989 when she was given 3 months to live. Which was pretty alarming to a 16-year-old. And I'm from Albany.
Right.
And what an amazing community that Albany was back then to support me and that kind of a diagnosis. But 28 years later, she moved on to her heavenly home in July. And this event is all about finding or funding research to try to find the answers. And I'm definitely very passionate about that. And Sean, and I actually saw an ad for Sean back in 2012, came to him and said, I have this grassroots idea, love horses, want to do a polo tournament, and how do I make that happen? I want to raise money, and that's what I'm passionate about. I want to honor my mother and the journey and the story. She's made such a difference in the lives of others, and I wanted to bring that story to life. Right. Pretty Woman style on a polo field. I had this movie in my mind, this gorgeous polo setting and this big tent on a grass field, hats, dresses, of course, we all watched Pretty Woman back then.
Oh, yeah. Like when you said that, it suddenly sent images through my head.
Well, you know exactly what it is.
If you haven't watched it, then, everybody's at least watched it once or been forced to watch it with their girlfriend.
Right.
So, whose favorite movie is, So, exactly.
Well, Sean, thankfully, he helped me bring that story to life and
awesome.
Put it together. And, his event production, he made it so much even more amazing than I even had imagined. And the way that he is able to put the resources together to find folks like Tito's and Four Roses in the very beginning. And, of course, I'm faithful to my Albany folks since that's where I'm from. I'm a South Georgia girl. So when Glenn Tennyson and Colleen had mentioned Pretoria Fields, I was definitely jumped right on that. I love it. And I love bringing Albany products to Atlanta.
Very
Still
good.
do, and I will continue doing that.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. One of the things I've loved about Sean and getting to know him is he has an entrepreneurial aspect on this whole idea of raising money for charity, and and I think what you're doing is thinking outside of the box.
Wait, there's a box?
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't know what a box is.
That's why he succeeds.
There's a box?
He does not know what a box is. And to your point, he does. He takes that brand and brings it to life, puts the story behind it, puts meaning behind it, and it truly shows what a partnership with a purpose looks like.
I know what's expected of me.
Brand development is certainly one thing, and then of course when you run a nonprofit and an event like this, saving money is a very big component.
Right.
So-
I mean, and what you're saying is you want all the money to go where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean,
No, it's not that she wants all the money to go where it's supposed to. It's that she holds me under a gun and says, no, we can't do that.
right.
I want you to do it. You have to do it. My expectation is that you'll do it, but we're not paying for that.
Right.
And what time does it start? You know what I mean? And it's really easy to get caught up in all of those kind of things. But when you have the privilege of working for someone like Tina Fowler and what she's done with Polo in the Pines, this is her job.
Yeah.
This is her
Non-paying
life. This is her
job.
life. She receives no money for work at Polo in the Pines. She raises countless hundreds of thousands of dollars every year from personal collections, and families and friends and foundations and banks, and she does the dance, and she's a professional ask person now, and she never thought that she could do that. But if I was asked to do what I do for someone who, the difference here is the difference between walk the talk and talk the walk, right? Like, this is not a person that's just flapping their gums about what it needs to be. This is a person that's actually doing it. Mm-hmm. Most people that start nonprofits create a revenue stream that allows them to live in conjunction with their nonprofit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I take a job as the executive director of Fluffy's Rescue, and I adopt, wayward miniature pinchers, right? You know what I mean? And I can draw a salary off that as a nonprofit. But Tina does not do that. Every cent that she does, every aspect of what she does is about the fiduciary responsibility as a nonprofit owner to give to the cause. Right. If someone trusts her enough to cut her a check for $500,000, you write the checks to Polo in the Pines. No, if you have a $500,000, write the check, send it to no. She makes sure and she guarantees that all of that money goes to that nonprofit to the full extent that if she has to, and I'll say this to you, and I love you for what you do, but I'll be like, Tina, we need a marketing campaign. She's like, oh, I'll just pay for that. No, that's not how that's supposed to work, Tina. Yeah, I don't want to take that out of the money that we're driving to research. So she will beg, borrow, and steal, and finesse and manipulate the asset that she has to make it work. And in doing that, encourages others to make that happen. Like Legacy Catering in Atlanta, that's come on board with a $100,000 donation to do dinner or Legacy Luncheon. I don't know if so it's called the Legacy Luncheon. It's the Legacy Invitational, and the caterer's name was Legacy. So I thought, well, this is going to be easy, right? Like, I'm just going to go up and say, it's already named after you. So this is what we need you to do. And, they bought that. I didn't have much to sell there at all. I just said, hey, this is feel good. We're going to pay for your staff. We're going to get farms to grow the food for you. I got a beer company that makes a really great stout. And we're going to braise some short ribs in it from cows that I'm having made. We can make these pieces come together and all in. And then last night we had like a little mini Polo in the Pines. There's a great viewing tower there. And we gather maybe 50 or 40, sometimes 60 people. Cheese plate, some champagne, watch the match and engage with people on a cellular level so they feel the intoxication of being with Tina and her gift and how she runs this world. I mean, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And regrettably, to both of our benefit, our friendship has been so that we have been by our sides for the last 7 years. And I think, when you're challenged as much as you are, as much as she challenges me, and then you constantly try, I think everybody at this table would fall into the under-promise and over-deliver category. I'll do a good job, and you do a really great job, and you think, wow, but you don't tell someone you're going to do a really great job and go, oh, yeah, sorry, I missed that time deadline. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. And Polo in the Pines has just been this opportunity to show a lot of opportunity to those that don't have it, whether it's the beer company who's trying to announce its presence in the Atlanta market, or the child who's in the little plastic car wheeling her way down through the hallway at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta on the way to the chemo suite. Like, you've got to do it. Right. And those people that get it really well. And it's those people that we want to work with. If I have to twist your hand If I got oh, come on, it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
You know, there's enough of us out there that get the gift of the greater good.
Yeah.
And it's how we find those people and how we put those people together that make it most exceptional. And Tina does that very well. Yeah. She applauds those people. She's a great wind up your skirt blower.
Well, Eric and I started out in church, and we still have a Thursday morning devotional. Actually, we've been going through the same book for about a year now, I think.
No, that's not
But you started with happiness, but one of the awesome things is purpose and meaning, and I think happiness is intermittently dispersed, but you found something that gives you both purpose and meaning, or the moving through these things, and then intermittently you find happiness that's in that, and that's a great blessing. But the meaning that you find through Polo in the Ponds, and the purpose that goes along with that, will create the happiness, and it's something that a lot of people look for the outside, and they're like, why can't I do that too? And the fact of the matter is that if more individuals would think like you do and like you do, then we could solve a lot of the problems that we see around that actually are problems. And so anyway, so that's my.
Well, we talked about that when you came to the studio, and we did this promotional piece for Pretoria Fields in my old television studio that was in the back of a warehouse that housed all the props that I needed to make all of the events work and make them all look so great in my floral studio and stuff. And at the end of the conversation, we got into a very heated dialogue about politics, and I love political conversations. And every American, I'm not an American, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I love this country. It makes me better. But we've lost our ability to communicate, and it's in our communication that allows for a great dialogue, and we can have a difference of opinion. We can argue opposite sides of the coin vehemently for hours, and at the end of the day, the benefit is that we've made each other better because of the conversation. I'm not defriending you. Oh, that trip, Morgan, right? Defriend. That's not what we're doing, right? Like we're engaging in a dialogue that leaves us both better and educated, and that's what we're missing. And it's not even as much as finding happiness. Tina and I talked about on the way down, like, once you decide to live life joyfully, oh God, it's the hardest thing to do, to think that you could just be joyful every day.
Right.
Right? But once you get there and you look back and you're like, how in the hell was I miserable for so long? You know what I mean? It seems like it's the hardest thing to do, but it's like flipping a page. And we both talked about that on the beautiful drive down. And so the trees that you drive through on 85 coming south down through here are really lovely, and there's nothing to look at. So why not talk about things that are relevant? Right. And we're both looking at life from this happy place, and we've both had very significant losses in the last number of years together. Her mother, a year and a half ago, me, my father, 2 months ago. And when you have the opportunity to be faced with what you have to face with palliative care, with someone who passes from cancer, who has been battling for a week, an hour, a day, a year, or 27 years, it makes things really relevant to the dialogue. That's the most incredible thing I've ever done in my entire life, was to help my father do what he had to do. Right. And in Canada, like, they show up with a bag of morphine, Tim Hortons donuts, and a coffee, and they're like, here. And I'm like, what? I'm supposed to do that? Like, that's what the doctors are like. No. We do it at home in Canada. I'm like, oh crap, right? So you're having to do that, and now things like, who's going to be our caterer for Saturday at Polo in the Pines? It's just easy. You know what I mean? I need someone to give me $100,000 worth of food. Okay, that's easy, right? And it's that perspective, and it's that higher vibration conversation that allows these dialogues to happen, where Tina can say, I'm just not prepared to pay for that, but we need really beautiful couches. And then I either have to find the couches, build the couches, steal the couches, have them fall off a truck on the way from New Jersey to Los Angeles. Like, there are couches everywhere.
Right.
I just have to locate them for that 46-hour period. That's is the Polo in the Pines Legacy Invitational.
Well, you really don't. You don't know what these things are until you've gotten a little bit older, and the concept of what wisdom actually is, and what you're talking about is. And I've been to a lot of school, a lot of school. I didn't get out of school till I was 35, and so but getting out of school at 35, I was intellectually well prepared with very little wisdom as to what the world, what both bad and good things were out there, and I think that's exactly what you're describing in talking about how you dealt with your parents, and having all of the dealing with the bad things in life, and accepting those things as part of life, and then moving on and realizing that the best thing we can do in life is to move on. And I want to say this: my oldest daughter, Mary Bryce, just graduated, and I think I heard one of the best speeches at a senior graduation that I've heard in a long time. The teacher had breast cancer over the last year and a half, and she was the counselor for the upper school for the 9 through 12, and she went through and they had asked her to speak because she was the selected teacher, and she talked about how hard it was, and how she could have given up, and how she didn't give up, or she did not go to school because she wanted the kids to see that when you're faced with that, you will be faced with adversity in life, that it's going to happen to everybody. People you love are going to die. People you love are going to get sick. You're going to get sick. Things that you don't expect are things that you don't expect to happen will, but you still have to face those things. You still have to put the mask on. Your hair, I think she said specifically, my hair fell out, and I still went to school with my hair had fallen out, and I was wearing a mask. And I did it for my kids. I did it for the kids that look up to me every day. And I can't remember the rest of what she said, but the point being is that that the acceptance of that and moving through those bad parts, it is the most basic part of what it means to be a human being, and accepting that in a positive manner, and moving forward in a positive manner, and still having a positive outlook on life, and spreading that to both the people that are around us and the people that that is one of the most basic things that we can do as people, and to spread purpose, and to take it back full circle, to spread purpose and meaning. And so I wanted to mention her because it's really one of the. I mean, her getting up and speaking was very brave, because she was crying the whole time. And
it was a powerful speech. I was there as well.
Yeah.
And she talked, just to reiterate, she talked about how easy it would be for her not to show up. I'm sick. I don't feel well.
I don't have to go to school.
Exactly. And that actually, she flip-flopped it and said, those are the very reasons I need to go, to show basically these students who are young and impressionable the fact that bad things are going to happen, and you basically, you've got a choice at that point in time. You can either succumb to that. I don't know. It's not self-pity, or it's not.
It is self-pity. I mean, it's self-pity, and it's. But
I think that she was.
And it's the evil that the world has to offer. I mean, really. I mean, it's all of the bad things that are just a part of the world, and they're just the basic parts of it.
Yeah. But to use that to basically, she flip-flopped it. She inspired the rest of the class and that entire class. That was their choice to pick her as the faculty member that would speak for their graduation. And I'm sure they had a plethora of choices, but it was that powerful to them, and it meant that much to them that they went ahead and selected her. It was, and I agree with you. It was a very powerful speech, and it was a very powerful presentation.
Yeah, I was already emotional, but
Yeah.
I was crying.
Well, yeah, I didn't even have a kid graduating. I teared up.
Should you admit you're emotional on a podcast?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Well-
I think if that's really something that we want to talk about.
It's okay to be emotional. To your point, choosing joy and gratitude is something so powerful. And thank you for sharing that story. One of the things that my mom told me, probably during the last 30 days, I had gone back to Atlanta to spend a minute or two with my daughter. I'd spent most of the summer in 2017 down here in Albany. When I got back, she had progressed even more just in 1 week. Her body was so frail, and it was just startling. And she saw the look on my face as we're trying to get her ready for bed in the bathroom, and I'm looking in the mirror, and she said, "Baby, God doesn't see what we see. It's going to be fine." Yeah. And, for her to be able to persevere through the physical look of what cancer does to the body and know where she was about to go, and to be thankful for what God had given her, 28 years that she didn't think she would have. And she took every single bit of that time and loved her grandbabies, Morgan and Collins and Carson. And I have not seen somebody have so much energy. You would think a normal person would be tired, not her. They call her Gigi.
Oh.
And she had so much energy, and she knew in her heart she had borrowed time. She would never admit that. She didn't admit it until she never admitted it. When she took her last breath, she was amazed that this really is happening.
Right.
And that is the only time I saw a tear come out of her eye. Wow. Other than that, she was going to beat this thing. And she has a little angel on her door that says, "Expect a miracle." That miracle came in heaven, but she had so many miracles on earth that I am grateful for. And I'm grateful that she was able to show my daughter Morgan and all of her grandbabies, Collins and Carson, just how precious life is and what perseverance looks like.
Sure.
And she certainly did not let time pass her by without taking advantage of it. And I've watched our honorees, Lilia and Seville from Albany. I've watched them grab life and live it to the fullest. And they have inspired me to be a better person and to watch them look at the younger children that have had cancer, little Caroline, who is 5, to watch how they've embraced this child and really be a mentor to her, a mentor to a 5-year-old that doesn't know what it's like to lose hair. Seville especially, having to go through that process and to be able to grab hold and make a difference in a young girl's life, and Lilia too. I'm so thankful that Mom got to spend time with them and see their journey. And of course, that was in 2017, and Mom passed in 2017. But to be able to experience all of that in the same year, I feel like is such a blessing. And I'm thankful to be able to raise money for such a worthy cause for brain cancer research at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
And we don't have to look very farther than Tina's mother to understand where Tina's passion has come from. Even in the last weeks of your mom's life, she chose to do something that would live as part of her legacy. And at Polo in the Pines, we're looking for every opportunity to make money. Like, okay, let's sell the tablecloths. No, we can't sell the tablecloths. There's stuff on them. But we're always trying to find the next thing that we can do. So
Right.
Dean Crownover, our celebrity auctioneer, says, let's have a centerpiece auction. And Tina's mother is like, oh, I got this. The woman has probably 3 months left on the planet with us, and she organized a group of her friends to hand cast 50 concrete pots. And
Pot
then-
ladies.
Right? Beautiful, beautiful concrete pots, all individually forged by either her or her friends' hands, that would sit in the center of the tables. And then she said, that's not enough. Meanwhile, she's very ill. Tina and her mother are, crying in each other's ice cream bowls as they're marching towards the end of
Right.
this journey in making the pots. And then Mom is very simply, I need to find the plants to fit in them. And that year, after Tina's mom passed, she never made it to Polo in the Pines in 2017, but there were 50 centerpieces that had beautiful orchids and ferns and things that looked like her mother in the room that she had not or would not get to see that year, but had been such an integral part of for the 4 years prior to that. And, Dean Crownover, pick somebody at your table that's gregarious, and they're going to be your auctioneer, and we're going to start the bidding off at. And we raised thousands of dollars of people, $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000, $1,500 for, a rather childlike cast piece of concrete, right? It wasn't done by some celebrated artist. You know what I mean? It was just a family and friends getting together to work on a project for this particular event. And all that money went straight to the fund at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta in her memory for pediatric brain cancer research. And the woman still impacts everything that we do. And she's a real power player, and she's certainly her mother's daughter. Not that I can ask her to make 50 concrete pots this year. But if you're out there in the podcast land and you've got some orchids and some pots that you'd like to donate for our centerpiece, we're happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Well, the ladies that did those pots, it was a celebration of life. They had the best time laughing and cutting up and telling stories. And, my mom could barely even walk. But being able to celebrate life and know that you're doing something good. And, of course, Lilia and Seville were in our minds that whole time as well. And then, of course, we have little Caroline now and another 19-year-old little girl. Not little girl, that's a young woman. She's another ambassador this year. So to be able to know that you're continuing a legacy and watching these children create their legacy, it's pretty special. It's amazing to see what God is doing in all of our lives, bringing Pretoria Fields, a partnership with a purpose. I can tell, it's something meaningful to you, and it's meaningful to a lot of our partners. We've built an amazing family of people that have come together, and they care about what we're doing, whether it's a business or a family foundation or an affinity group of people.
Right.
You can definitely feel it.
So we talked about entrepreneurship, and if people ask me about entrepreneurship, I never, or have I ever, or don't even really think about money. And so it's a really interesting concept, because the best way I can describe it is I'm an artist that can't paint. And so I have a little bit
feeling.
I have a little bit of an artistic mind. I have a lot of logic too, but I have a little bit of an artistic mind, but my artistic mind, or my openness of the artistic mind, works in a way where I see things that other people don't see. I see opportunities that others don't see. And so it's really a strange thing, because if I try to quell it, or if I just say, well, I really just need to deal with what I'm dealing with right now, don't do that, or don't do that, or don't do that, then I sort of die a little bit inside. And it's just, it's like if you're not constantly moving forward and doing those things. And I sort of lost my train of thought, but I think my point is that the money thing, it never really plays into what you're doing. It really goes back more to that purpose, meaning, and creativity as far as the projects go, and like seeing the project and having it's as much about the story as it is about anything else. It's organic beer, it's sustainable farming, it's natural resource utilization and management, and so having those things move forward and moving those with other organizations is how we're going to move our business plan forward. So
well, and we love you, and we're happy to help in any way that we can. Changing the world one damn good beer at a time.
Good beer at a time. Well, and thank you for coming down today. So I was not able to be with y'all today. So tell me, did you enjoy the farm? Or?
No, it was horrible.
It was
great. No,
it's hot in South Georgia, so it actually could have been horrible.
Is that an alligator? No, it wasn't that bad.
No, it was a bee.
It was a
bee.
We have bees.
So Albert, who has been my primary contact with Pretoria Fields over the last year and a bit of our friendship, has been trying to get me down here forever. Yeah. And every once in a while, I get to invite someone who's from somewhere to a place that I've been invited to as a tag-along. So I said to Tina, I'm going down to Albany to spend the day with Pretoria Fields. And she's like, wait, you're going where I'm from? And I have a habit of doing this lately. Like, I invited my cousin to his mother's house for dinner.
Right.
Nice.
He's like, wait, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I get that there's a lot of confidence in someone that can do that, you know. And we started the voyage. We left early. We were really missing the fact that we hadn't hired a scribe, because the ideas were like hot on the biscuit all morning down, right? Like there had to have been someone writing. She picked me up at 7:00. We were here by 10. We were here having a tour at 10:45. We were on the farm, looking at that beautiful giant oak tree with the Spanish moss way back where you have the hydroponics test zone by the train track to the town that was never built.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and see, again, I listen, right? And it's just really nice to see someone that has that responsibility. Like, there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And regrettably, in our world today, there's a lot of wrong ways of things being done. And there's something that really reverberates with me, that when you see a resource and you have an opportunity to use that resource, and then you realize, right, I have a responsibility for that resource. So land being used correctly, organic farming, crop rotation. Oh, now it's wheat, it might be rye. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I took a video today of me standing in the field of wheat at the Pretoria Fields farm. It was about 15 minutes from where the brewery is, right? It's not that far. Mm-hmm. And there's just no noise. And all you can hear is just and it's just the wind through the wheat, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And
unless the trains are coming by.
Well, thankfully, I had called the train company and said, don't spoil my moment. So they held them at bay until we had finished our tour. I think Albert probably arranged that for us, knowing how offensive that would be to myself and Tina. But everything about what you're doing is it's right. And I don't say that often. You know, even in the stuff that I do, I find mistakes, and I'm sure you find mistakes in what you do as you go about the world that you live in and the chores that are on your daily sort of task list. But from an outsider looking in, the repurposing of buildings downtown Albany that have been distressed and underutilized for years, reinvigorating a downtown core in a city that has been forgotten about, hiring all the weird people to work for you. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't shaved since
I'm actually not hired.
Okay, well, occupational therapists are really never hired. You just want to brought in as a consult basis. But see, look, how can he tie the knots? But it's good. And from an outsider looking in, you guys are doing a really great job at everything I've ever asked for any of the nonprofits that I have the privilege of working with. You guys have done. And I want to figure out the next thing I was saying to you earlier. Like Four Roses Bourbon has been a huge hero of ours for years. And they now have a fourth bourbon, right? It's Fourth Rose that's on the market, right? And I need to get some of those barrels down here for Kevin so he can see about making an aged beer
I like
in
your thought
that
process,
barrel?
yeah.
Or listen, you guys are
A new
supporting
beer.
you guys are supporting Polo in the Pines. You're in, right? Whether you want to be or not. Now we have no choice. We've been telling
Sure.
everybody about it, right?
You're
So
part of the family
is
now.
there a way of us brewing a couple of beer and
Oh,
having them
no doubt.
sit in a bourbon barrel for a couple of months and then using them at the event to show the marriage between bourbon and brews?
Yeah.
I know that's not where I want to go with the event, but that might be something we could do later.
Right.
But it just speaks to the tone of family that Tina's just mentioned and the intention that's been set behind a community of people that really understand the get and don't always have everything that we need, but within the community you do. You know what I mean? If I need my veins looked after, I have a friend that can do that and pour me a beer while I need the veins cleared. And I know he's looked after when his pinky gets bad by my new friend who's the occupational therapist for hands, right? And I can finally get these 11s out of my forehead because I can go see Nikki, right? I hate the 11s. They drag me down. You know the 11s?
Got plenty of.
You've got plenty of them. Yeah, no, it's time to get them out, right? In fact, we could have tomorrow's podcast about me getting Botox treatment from Nikki, and I could just lie on the table here. It works. No, we're not going to do that. But it's been a really great eye-opening day. I love the brewery. I love the empty space and the open space in back. The reclaimed walls that have been fortified by the steel girdering holding up the backdrop to the band stage.
And still having materials left over to do some more.
If we hadn't come down in Tina's car, I'd have put a few flats of them on the roof of mine to take them back to Atlanta for a project.
I know, they're beautiful bricks. Aren't
Oh, they're beautiful.
And I'm
bricks.
sure they were. You know, the cool thing is those buildings were right around turn 1900, so they were probably made here in Albany.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they were probably made right here in Albany. And if you look at a lot of the bricks, you pick them up, and they're actually stamped Albany.
They're stamped?
They're stamped Albany Brick Company.
And how long has that not been around? The Albany Brick Company.
100 years. now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Since that-
so it was a
since that-
flash in the pan
So,
in Georgia South. Okay.
That's right. So meaning, purpose, family, and professional responsibility. And I think that's a great way to close. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all very much for
Thank
doing
you.
it. And we really, it means a lot for us, both personally and professionally, to be a part of what you're doing, and keep doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your passion. You really
Come to the
do have
brunch
a passion
festival.
with a purpose. And I saw that.
Brush Fest.
The brunch festival. Come to Polo in the Pines this year. Come on up. Make
will.
a sojourn to Atlanta. It's
You can
really a
enter-
I
familiar
mean, they
city.
drove down here.
Enter the breakfast beer and the brunch contest.
The breakfast
Is that what
beer.
you're
Breakfast bear. Oh, that's right.
the best brunch
Like I'm saying,
bite contest
usually
or best brunch
Albert
sip?
actually usually gets to do most of the fun things. Cause
Oh, no, you have to come up.
Yeah.
And bring Dad. And
Yeah.
please send him my love. Your father is
Oh,
charming.
the gentleman farmer.
The gentleman farmer.
Yeah, that's right. You coined that. That was awesome.
He was. We had a great time. That was a great afternoon in the studio. I'm very appreciative of that, and of this. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you too. Thank you guys.